First of all,
okay, imagine that.
I was just counting. Good night. Good evening. Here we are. I'm here with Sophie. We are laughing because we're like being a little bit silly and spastic of a count before we begin. First of all, Sophie, I would like you to just introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Sophie Vardie. I live in Modi'in, and I'm a floral designer. Many people in Modi'in know me, but actually, due to social media, people are knowing me all around the world, which is quite amazing and exciting. And that's basically, my professional work. I'm also a mum to 2 kids who should be in their bedrooms right now, but are not. And I made Aliyah from England in 2003. So I've been living in Israel basically all of my adult life.
Wow.
And still passionate to be living here. It's not easy living in Israel, but it's definitely following a dream.
Yes.
And I feel very lucky to be doing something I love as well, working and, filling my days with flowers and happy things.
Wow, that's beautiful. So how did you, first of all, you made Aliyah in 2003 with your family, with your parents?
No. Right. So, I mean, now my parents and one of my brothers is here. I have another brother who lives in London with his family. My parents were incredibly supportive. I, grew up in quite a Zionistic family. I was very involved in B'nai Akiva. And after spending a year like on Hachshara, I went back to England for university. And then I made Aliyah with some very good friends. And actually one of them lives around the corner from me in Kaiser, which is amazing. It's like having, it's, the old friends. It's amazing, all the new friends I've met along the way, but there's something very special about really old friends. And actually, most of my year, I was thinking about this today because I was sure this will come up in the conversation. Most of my year from our like B'nai Akiva year, we're nearly all in Israel. So it's really amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of us here and a lot of my madrachim are here who, see from time to time. So it's really special.
Well, that was
many in Modin as well.
Wow, that's first of all, that's a very successful class. I think you're like,
yeah.
I think they should like advertise that as like some serious PR. But secondly, that is so cool and amazing to be able to have childhood friends with you here.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things that when we all make Aliyah, we're lacking and we lose. You besides your family, because sometimes the family will come, okay, you'll go and visit, but not having that connection to your past, very, very challenging, for a lot of people. And I think that is the nicest thing I have heard in a long time, that you have like, because I'm thinking, wow, imagine if I had made Aliyah with her. Wow.
No, I mean, it's something very special with, I can only speak like British B'nai Akiva, even though I was actually also involved in Canadian, I went, since living in Israel, I'm going back years, but I went to Camp Moshava in Canada as I actually ran an art chinuch program there a long time ago. So I got to know Canadian B'nai Akiva a little bit, but speaking with like Olim of like British B'nai Akiva, many of us are here. It's definitely, a lot of us owe our Aliyah to B'nai Akiva. And, even though it's funny, I was thinking about this today as well, like my kids are not involved really in B'nai Akiva here.
Yeah.
And I think, my ex-husband also, he was very involved in B'nai Akiva in South Africa. And sometimes I find it funny, like our kids aren't involved, but I think there's a big difference growing up in Galut when there's like something lacking and there's this need. And like B'nai Akiva for us, for many other people, like some of my friends, it was other Zionistic youth movements. There's another one that was around, I don't know if it's still around so much, but FZY in England, where also a lot of people in Modi'in were involved in that and live here. And it definitely had an influence on their lives. So growing up, sort of being part of a youth movement, definitely provided something. But I think when you're in Israel, even though there are youth movements and the kids involved, I mean, I see what kids do in Sofim, it's amazing, and in Bnei Akiva, it's amazing. But I think just kind of that life of just living in Israel and breathing it every day, and they go to Israeli schools, and you know, even the tennis that they're involved in, my kids, it's Israeli. That there isn't that need so much that we had as kids that was like a real, you know, like a draw to the country. That was the connection.
Absolutely. It's completely different. It's a different animal over there than it is here. Sort of very similar to how in America, the shul, the Beit Knesset,
right.
You know, that was like your community, your livelihood. Whereas here, it's a little bit different. Even though I think that we are very fortunate because we're in very we're in communities that have a lot of Anglo, even though I have some jokes that, you know, there's so many Americans, whatever. I mean, most of my neighbors around me are Israeli. So native born Israelis. So I don't feel, yes, with the, you know, large cities, we still are a very small percentage. But I think we're very fortunate in that we are in these Anglo communities. So we have the shuls, we have that sense of community activities. You know, when it comes time for Hanukkah and all the Chagim and this and that, there's always something going on.
Right.
Not now during Corona, but there's always something going on in the community that brings us together. And I can't imagine not having, like in the States, if we didn't have that, you know, it just, that's for us as the adults. And then Bnei Akiva is sort of like that, or NCSY in the States.
Right, you have that, exactly.
It's for the teen, it's the same. So it's a completely different animal here versus there. Although my daughters were very, very involved they did Ezra and not B'nai.
Right.
But then I also have some of their friends with prayers are B'nai Akiva kids, and it's like hardcore, you know.
It's hardcore, I know. Yeah. That's why it's funny that I do sometimes think that it's so crazy that we were so hardcore in the UK. Like the kids my kids aren't into it. It may come in years to come, you know, they're still kind of youngish. But I do think there's something very different about their upbringing in this, like just where the Judaism is so natural and it's just part of life here. Whereas like for us, I mean, I grew up in a very, very provincial, very small Jewish community. We didn't have any restaurants, any kosher restaurants. There was a small makolet connected to the shul. Like it's crazy to think that. And here, you know, my kids take it for granted. You can just order pizza or anything. Everything's kosher.
I know.
Like it's amazing, you know. It's an amazing way to live.
Absolutely, and you're right. It's you know, there isn't as much of a need here. Like you don't have kids. If my kids choose to not participate, or if they chose not to participate in B'nai Akiva or Ezra, I would have been like, okay, go do this group or that group or whatever.
And there's other things. There's just other things to do.
Exactly, you are here, you know. You know, so yeah, I totally get that. But that's actually amazing that you have like your Hevra, you have your childhood friends here in Israel with you. I absolutely love that so much. So tell me a little bit about your voyage. That behind me on the table is Sophie's beautiful orchids. Her orchids. I have one behind the computer, which I'm not going to move it so you can't see it. And there's another one in my kitchen. And I absolutely love your plants, but I love your flowers. You have an amazing eye. And I love seeing when you do things at simchas, occasions, and everyone knows that, you know, if you need a little pick me up for someone, or you want to send them a special bouquet, then you're the lady to call. I wouldn't necessarily call a florist because I feel like they bring, you'll get a gorgeous bouquet. And I feel like it's like connect the dots. It's paint by numbers type of bouquets. When you see, they're gorgeous, they're lovely. It's like everything is placed, you know, like someone is counting the number of flowers that go in this ring, in that ring. And yours are just so vibrant, no matter what colors you choose. And And again, I love the fact that you'll usually ask, oh, what does she like? Or what type of colors do you like? What kind of plants? Everything is just very personalized and
right.
And you clearly love flowers. It's not that you're like, oh, I like flowers, it's nice, it's fun. You love flowers also. And
right.
that really shows in the product that you create. So I want you to tell us a little bit about how you came to this.
Okay, well, firstly, I will say, before I answer that, I noticed when I watched, I've been loving, by the way, watching all of these podcasts, like listening to them, but watching them as well. I actually, on a Thursday night, I never get any sleep. I'm usually up nearly till about 5 a.m, making bouquets and arrangements. And usually I listen to music in the background, but this week I listened to the podcast. So first it was amazing getting to know some of my clients. I was making flowers for someone and they were being interviewed, so that was quite interesting. But I noticed the orchid and I was very pleased. Your orchid looks great in the background.
Really?
Yeah. So the floral journey, how did it begin? It's kind of interesting. I would say like this, I grew up in a house where there were always flowers. My dad, every Friday, came home from work before Shabbat with beautiful flowers for my mum. Not always huge, nothing like massive, but there were always flowers on the Shabbat table. And that is a memory that I loved. And I used to love going, you know, before Chagim, I would go and like choose flowers for my mum. And I remember there was an amazing flower shop in Newcastle where I grew up called The Secret Garden. And I still sometimes look at their website now. I love seeing what they do. It was a very, very different florist, very creative, different, you know, like what you're saying, some florists, they literally, financially, a florist counts how many stems you put in a bouquet, right? So, and that's why you're saying,
but it's not the number.
Florist, and it looks very like calculated. But this florist was like art and design. And I was always very good at art. I mean, that, you know, maths was not my strongest point, science less so, art, my pictures hung around the whole school. But at that stage, it wasn't like as a kid, I thought I'll ever become a florist. You know, I grew up in a very kind of academic family. My dad's a doctor, my mum's a lecturer at university, so it never really crossed my mind like I would do that. It was like, what am I going to do with this art skill? And at university, I studied textile design. That was, you know, very interesting degree back, which was like primarily really learning about different types of, you know, uses of fabrics, how to weave, how to knit, how to print. But it was also quite academic, like it was about the history of design, the history of fashion, all those sort of things. It was, and, you know, like textile chemistry and management and business. It was like a mix of everything. And it was a very interesting degree. But when I was young, when I was in my 20s, I was crazy passionate about, I had to come back to Israel. And that, so in about like late 90s, there was a trend in the UK and in the States for these beautifully handmade gift cards. I don't know if you remember anything like this, but in England, they were selling for a lot of money, you know, I mean, relatively for a card, with fabric and wire and all sorts of pressed flowers and all sorts of things. And I, as a kid, as like a, you know, sort of 16-year-old kid, decided, hold on, I can totally make these and sell them. And I did. And I sold in a ton of shops, and including a big shop called Waterstones, which if any Brits are listening to, they'll know what it is. And then I brought this business to Israel. And when I first made Aliyah, when I was in Ulpan, you know, everyone else was getting like small jobs, like, I don't know, babysitting jobs or whatever it was. I sold my cards in shops all over Emek Rafaim, in Tel Aviv, in markets. And one of the places that I supplied on a regular basis was a florist. And that is where my story kind of began, because you don't make that much money. You could do quite well in the card market in England as a teenager, making extra cash, but not really as a living. And you certainly can't do it in Israel. And in Israel, a lot of people would be like, wow, you're so talented, these are so pretty. And then like they saw the price and walked past. And when I walked into this florist and he took the cards, you know, he took them on consent and was like buying them regularly. Yeah. I just loved this place. And I picked up a nice rapport with the guy who owned it. And I was like, just train me. I just want to work here. So I did. And sadly, I noticed, actually, I kept in touch a little bit with him over the years. And I noticed just recently he's closed the shop. And I did wonder whether it was because of Corona, like if it affected it. His work was a lot more with gardens. Like he was a big gardener, and then he had the flower shop on the side, and I think that's really gone. But that florist reminded me of the Secret Garden in England. And it was not just a florist, it was art. It was like I was able to fulfill my creativity in that florist, and I learned all the tricks of the trade. Wow. And then I went to work in a florist in Moshav in Ra'anana. I lived in Ra'anana for like a year and a half. And I worked there, which was also very interesting. And actually on that Moshav is one of the big suppliers. It's called Givatchen. It's one of the big suppliers where flowers like grows in Israel for the growers. So sometimes I actually still go back and I get things from them. So they're like the biggest Lysianthus grower, if you know that flower, in Israel.
Oh, yes.
So that was how kind of, it began. But then at this point, I was pregnant with my son and standing as a florist for hours, and it's very hard work. So I took some time out and I saw a job advertised at IDC Herzliya, totally different, doing English editing for a counter-terrorist think tank. And I worked there on a project that was for 10 weeks and it suited me quite nicely. Okay. I don't know how I got this job, because honestly, I was interviewed by the ex-head of Mossad. I was interviewed by ex-Shabaknikim. They all run this, like think tank. And there were some very, very clever people, all PhD candidates and MA candidates, including one who I knew who worked with me on this project. And she just kept laughing. How the hell did you get the job? I'm like, I don't know. I still to this day don't know. But that 10-week job ended up being a job for 10 years.
How many years?
10, nearly a decade.
Oh my goodness.
It was a crazy job. It wasn't secret, my whole family thought it was Mossad. It really wasn't. It was open intelligence, and I was doing research for them and writing and like helping with their English a lot. But I ran a team of all these people, and I was like, actually, I'm a trained florist, not a political scientist. But the whole time I did feel a bit of a fraud. And I mean, I've clearly got good English writing skills, but it wasn't really for me. And I really missed the floristry. So this is how Happiness Through Flowers was born. I saw an advert, and I hope it's okay to say, but someone in the community posted on Facebook that they were looking for someone to teach their mother floral design. Right. So firstly, just to say that the job at IDC was only part-time, and it was perfect because then I was a mum of 2 little kids, and it was, 20 hours a week, and I could do it at home on the computer and go in there once in a while. So I spent a lot of time with little children, feeding a baby on Facebook. And I saw this advert that someone locally in the community posted. She was looking for a floral course. Now, as it happened, and this is the beauty in the whole thing, it wasn't really for her. It was for her mother, her elderly mother, who unfortunately was suffering from Alzheimer's. And she was really looking for a therapist to come in, but use the flowers as the therapy. Gotcha. Now, I contacted her and said, I was really telling her about courses, Zephyr, you run courses, and this school runs courses. And I was like, don't spend your money on it. Just go to a shop and try and get yourself a job, because you'll learn the tricks like I did. Full on. And she was like, no, that's not what I want. I want you to come and teach like my mum. So I still go. She's not so well anymore, but at the beginning, for about 2 years, I really went every week, and I brought different flowers and seasonal flowers, and every week something different and different colors. And I talk about the flowers, and that's really where I just fell in love again with being around flowers. And I also, when people say to me, like you said before, it's not just like a bouquet you pick up from a normal florist. It's because I see that there's real benefits to having flowers in our home. It brings a lot of happiness to people. There was a study done while I was doing this work with this lady. I looked into the therapy of flowers, and there was a study done at Rutgers University in the States that really delved into this idea about having, flowers in your home. You can see a few in the background here. Yeah. It lifts people's moods. It helps with well-being. I can't say there's a definite correlation between mental health and floral design, but I do think there's something very happy about flowers. And during that time, I was able to then create, get my hands back in the flowers. And then, and now I will give a big shout out to a local friend, but also another who's a local photographer. She basically asked me to do a few things for her clients with flowers, and then she told someone in the community, oh, I know this amazing florist. And the next thing I knew, I was doing an event. So apart from freaking out that I was doing this huge event, that was it. And I was like, I know this is what I want to do. And I just totally gave up everything else and just went with the flowers. And through the power of Facebook and Instagram and everything, I've just really enjoyed it, built it.
Wow. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So it's a journey. It's definitely a journey.
Oh, wow. It definitely, first of all, I love the fact that you worked in this think tank with ex-Mossad people, and you're sanity.
You don't understand how crazy, really crazy. I remember one time when it was Rosh Hashanah, and they did everyone comes and has a glass of wine, and everyone's saying what relatively, not everyone said everything, but what they were. So then was this very impressive lady who was the ex-head of the Israeli prisons. Well, I think she was in charge of Israeli prisons. And then someone else, who was the ex-head of this Shabak unit. And then I was like, yeah, well, I was actually a florist, and I did textile design at university. And they're all looking at me like, you itchy? Wrong room, lady, get out.
Oh, I love that. But that's the beauty of Israel. It's people reinvent themselves here. Sometimes from necessity, right? Sometimes from, I'm in a new place, that thing, a new place, new mazal, new luck, a new home, new mazal. But from you come here, and sometimes people really start. It's such a critical transition, and there's so many changes, and people ask themselves, what makes me happy? What have I dreamed of doing? You dream of making Aliyah, you dream of coming to Israel. So you come to Israel, you feel this dream of all dreams.
It's gone.
And then it's just a natural place for you to start thinking, once you've gotten everyone settled and this and that, about, well, what is my dream? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? Where does my happiness come from? And I love that, the name of your company is
Happiness Through Flowers.
Through Flowers.
Happiness Through Flowers.
Exactly. So it's everyone is asking, what is going to bring me happiness? Where's my happiness? Where's my happiness coming from? And there are certain times I think there are 3 times in your life that you can change your minchagim. When you marry, a woman marrying, she changes to her husband's minchag. A convert changes their minchag. They take on whatever they're going to take on. And when you make aliyah, you can make that decision upon making aliyah to change your minchag. And I mean, that just says so much about coming here and the changes that we go through. And I just love that you did so much, and you found like this creative place through that journey here. So I was just saying that is something that it just speaks so much. It speaks volumes that when you can change your complete Jewish practices when you make Aliyah. It's so significant.
Right.
I think it just trickles down and it affects everything. But I just love the fact that on your journey, you found this creative aspect and you went along the way till you came to today. And I think I'm going to start calling you Miss MoneyPenny from now on, because if you're like British,
right.
Your British accent there, in MI6 or.
As I say, it was a bit of a joke in my family. Important to say also to like New Orleans, I've been here, what is it now? It's like 17, 18 years, nearly coming up to Chai. It takes time. It takes time to really, I came single. I came not with children. I always think, gosh, when families come, I've had friends who come with, 4 kids, and it's like settling them and, and then you think about yourself or whatever. My journey was different. My kids are totally Israeli. I mean, they still have that chutznik sort of English isms in them, but, they're Israeli. But for me, it's taken time. My language, it's really not easy with the Hebrew. I mean, it's improved over the years a bit, but it's not a strong point. But I think if you have a lot of transferable skills, and that's it, like, there's things that I think when people ask me, I actually took part in a Nefesh B'Nefesh course. It was already now a year ago, like a year and a half ago. And someone asked me at this event that we had, like it was a pitch night, what differentiates you between another florist? Like, there's tons of florists out there. But I think, I would say that I really put into the flowers a lot of the skills I learned in design at university. I look at everything like a blank canvas. I know your thing here a lot is about artists and art, and I've seen that by listening to other people, and I do that with the flowers. Like, the flowers are my paint and ours is a blank canvas, and it sounds corny, but it's very much how I look at the work. I've kind of compared it also to like embroideries with texture. I love choosing flowers, not just, I use roses, say, as my basis a lot, but I like to choose a lot of textures and find different filler flowers and put them in to really create that picture or that canvas or, whatever it is. And I work a lot with color. And again, these are like skills that I learned in the past in the design skill, but then, taking work, the 10 years that I worked at IC, I did a lot with writing, and there was a lot of people, working with different people's skills. There was all the research skills, that are needed, and all of those skills are needed when you run a business. And you're looking at new things. It's very hard, you're looking at new things all the time. You need to be ahead of your game. There's always competitors out there. People say, oh, Sophie Vardie's the only florist. I'm not. There's loads of competitors out there. There's loads of talented other florists in Israel too, and we've all got, we all kind of know each other, but we've all got our own uniqueness, but you have to be able to find that uniqueness the whole way. And I think that's like, as I say, like, so you learn things in every step of the way. I also worked like I took the journey very slowly, like starting a business. I didn't go full on. It sounds a bit like that, like I just stopped everything. All right. I worked part-time for a charity for a couple of years, and I learned so much working in that charity, about organizations and how to run things. So I always say that to like New Orleans, who are a bit like lost, oh, in America it was like this, or in UK it was like this. Like, okay, that's what it was like here. You'll find your way here, but you need to pick and choose things from different places, and then it will help you build your life in Israel. Because if you don't do that, I think it's very hard to stay. You've got to be very committed to live in Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there should be, someone should invent sort of a test that people who make Aliyah can take. Like, once you've settled in, for fun, like based, not for fun, but to help people discover their skill sets. Because when you come here, everything that you were there usually does not translate here. Some careers do translate, and some people are able to telecommute, and they're able to do their jobs. But you could have like been a completely competent, business manager, office manager, accounts man, whatever it is that you did there, and then you come here and you are like starting from zero in a way, and. And all of a sudden, you go from being this confident person and having done A, B, C, and D to now struggling with the language. If you're here with the family, getting them all acclimated and settled, having them learn the language, the way everything works here. So it can be very daunting. And I think that it might be a really nice thing if someone were to come up with some sort of questionnaire, quick online questionnaire.
You should do it.
Maybe I will.
Do it and send it to Nefesh for Nefesh.
Maybe I will. Like how you go online on Facebook? I love those like things that like those little quick little things that you play, and it says, "Oh, you're an artist that likes Wednesdays," or I don't know, Stuyot, whatever. Right. Like, or you're like this artist, or you're like that artist. It should be like one of those things where you do. But seriously, like they ask you questions to help you sort of concentrate and realize, oh, my passion is here. I love this. And I have strong, hand-eye coordination, or I have great, analytical deduction, or whatever the case it may be. So that might be something that would benefit the Olim arriving here. And getting back to you said about the whole artist thing, I firmly believe that most people are hidden artists. There is, just by human nature. I mean, I think that that's sort of what separates us from most of the animals. And we do art. We create art, whether it's drawing a picture, whether it's arranging a bookshelf a certain way, whether it's being OCD about your linen closet and having your colors coordinated like a rainbow, or whatever the skill may be, painting, music, everything.
Or your theater,
exactly. Yeah, everyone is an artist, and in some way, shape, or form. And you are definitely a true artist with the flowers, because like I said, other places, I know that artists that florists keep, it's a profit. It's like you profit margin. You can't put too many expensive flowers. You have to find that balance. But their bouquets are just so cookie cutter and so like and yours are just a visual feast for the eyes, as far as I'm concerned.
But the truth is, I mean, I love it. I get very excited when people give me a challenge. So, I need, like, every job has the bread and butter, right? Yes. I was talking to a friend of mine, not actually Ingrid, the photographer, but another guy who's a photographer. And we were talking about, there are things that you do that are like the bread and butter of the business. And then there are things that are just like so creative and exciting for you. So I love it when people give me a challenge. And, just this week, I did a bar mitzvah, actually 2 bar mitzvahs this weekend. And one of them, it was literally everything changed because of Corona, and it was so last minute, everything. We went from plan A to plan D, and then it got to plan Z. And they ended up putting a marquee in the garden, and I was going to be doing a whole load of different things. And suddenly the design was like, I put the order in for the flowers. This is what you've got. This is like the budget that I was given. Let's decorate. She was like, I just want everything decorated on this marquee. So on one hand, it can be kind of daunting. It's like, oh my gosh, that's not quite the same thing. But on the other hand, it's just free creativity, which was lovely. And another thing is that for the other bar mitzvah, the boy loves bike riding. And his grandma asked, his mum wanted the centerpieces also. She'd seen something on Pinterest, right? Like everyone sees things on Pinterest. She'd seen something on Pinterest and wanted to know, like, could we get this? And as you know, I will go all over the country, like when I look for your peonies, like really searching for the right thing. And I went to all my suppliers and whatever. Eventually I found this very cool bike. And filled it with flowers, and it was so fun to make. And I actually did that while I was listening to your podcast. But you know, it's like those sort of things. Yeah, it was really nice. Those things are like really excite me. Someone asked me to make hot air balloons, or there was someone local, so like it was his wife's 50th, and he said, you know, she is obsessed with her dog. We're all obsessed with our little white fluffy dog. We love it. Can you create a dog? And he goes, in America, there's a thing with these dogs in baskets. Now, I'd never seen this before. It is totally not my style. But the next thing I knew, I was like researching it. I've got a florist group that I'm an international one. I was asking people, you know, techniques. And I loved creating it. There was another story when also a bat mitzvah girl, an amazing family locally. She was raising money for a village in Nepal to put like electricity and water, I think, in a village in Nepal. And then they were having a bat mitzvah small celebration in their home. And she wanted, like, I don't know if you've ever been to Nepal. I haven't, but she wanted like hanging marigolds. Like in Nepal, in the market, they have like these, I don't know how to describe it, like strips of marigolds, bright oranges. And in Buchman, just by your house, there is a roundabout, and it was filled with marigolds. So the mum kept saying, you have to be able to get them. They're in Buchman, and I could not get them. And it was like so difficult. Eventually, I managed to source them through one of the growers, and I literally like threaded these marigolds, but I learned how to do it because of Facebook. I literally went on and said, are there any florists in this international group from Nepal? And I got a big response from people, and they explained how to do it. And it was amazing. And it was so creative. And I hung them on the like sukkah balcony. It was like hanging everywhere in the garden. But you know, I love it when people are sometimes a bit scared and like, do you think you can do this? And I'm like, yes, like that's what I like to do, these creative And I think that is also what sets me aside from perhaps other florists, because it's something a bit different. So I'm waiting for the next challenge. What will come after this? Someone can give me a challenge.
Well, what? Corona was not enough of a challenge for you and your business.
Corona is a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, that must have affected you to some degree, you know?
It has. No, for sure. I mean, look, you know, there has been days, I will tell you, there were tears, floods and floods of tears. The worst part actually was before Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah and Pesach and Shavuot, they're like my big, you know, from a financial point of view as well, like it's a big time. But it was also about, you know, how can I not be able to like meet the demands of all the people? And everyone was asking me, and suddenly it was like there's going to be a lockdown, and no one knew if it was a lockdown, and my supplier didn't know whether they would be able to operate. And at that point I was like, if they can't operate, it's finished. And then like there was a whole thing with my kid's school, and this class was going into Bidud, and it was my kid in Bidud, and she had to be in her room by herself while I was like making all the flowers, and it was so stressful. So I can tell you, Corona has been a challenge. Having said all of that, I really am very, very grateful to the community. You know, people are very supportive. They've still wanted flowers, and actually I've seen even more so what I did, you know, every business has had to reinvent itself, work that bit harder, you know, reinvent, think. Last January, I had bookings nearly every single weekend going to this January. So much so that it was my son Harel's bar mitzvah. And when we were planning the Shabbat, I'm like saying to people, I can't do that weekend. That Shabbat is my weekend. That is our Shabbat. And then you know, obviously booking after booking like was cancelled, and I have a lot of clients in America. You know, it's really nice when they come from the States and they want a florist, and you know, I had all these bookings, and obviously they were just gone. And I work very closely with I'll give another shout out to Gilda Posner from Epic Events Israel, and she is, for those who don't know Gilda, she is a local party planner.
Oh man,
so we do a lot of work together.
She's amazing, a phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's a great friend and a great colleague to work with. And, you know, we were just like having coffee with each other going, there's another one gone, there's another one gone. And it was really hard. But, you know, I really do feel very grateful that people still want flowers, and people want flowers in the home. And I decided, you know, I had a couple of days where I went on a lot of bike rides and decided just my get out and you know, always has been, you know, go into nature and, you know, free the mind and figure out what I'm going to do. And I decided this is it. I'm going to change the business more from events, because events aren't happening, and focus more on flowers in the home. So I kind of did a bit of a campaign like this. You know, it started slowly, but, you know, flowers for people in Bidud. And it was actually people asking me to do it, you know, cheer someone up, bright bouquets of flowers, delivered to the door, non-contact. I did a lot of that. And then over the summer, I did like a tour of happiness through flowers through the country. And every Friday I marketed it. And, you know, thank God I've got connections with people literally like to south. I didn't actually go south so much. It was more north, to be honest. But, you know, I had a Friday in Bet Shemesh, a Friday in Ranana, a Friday in Netanya, you know, all over Tel Aviv, all over. And not forgetting Modi'in, people, that, you know, there was always Modi'in, but I did this, and that way it kept the business going. And thank God it's still going, and the events are kind of coming back. But again, you have to recreate yourself. They're outside events. What happens now? It's going to rain. Put marquees up, decorate the marquees. Like, everything has got to be like with a creative mind, and so much flexibility, like so much. Even like the bar mitzvah last Shabbat, you know, I had my order in with my supplier for getting everything ready for Friday, and suddenly on, you know, Wednesday afternoon, the mum's calling me going, okay, we've changed it. It's going to be Thursday night. We're having a party Thursday night in the garden because it's going to rain on Shabbat. So it's like, okay, change your plans. It's okay. You know, you have to be flexible, because otherwise it's just impossible with Corona. But, you know, this is, thank God, I'm not, you know, my brother's a doctor in a hospital working through all of this. It's a lot harder. These are crazy times. I'm not a health worker. All the people locally, the nurses, the doctors, you know, it's teachers, like, you know, I'm blown away by the teachers, you know, everyone.
You're a small business owner. And, you know, you're the person that this has impacted most of all, like a consumer based, you know, like a store, but and especially in your case, because some stores were able to remain open, not have people come in, but like take orders and do delivery. But you were so, you were so event based that definitely it's a huge impact.
Well, it had a huge impact, but I would say, you know, thank God with my business, there's really three parts or three components with the business. You know, before Corona, I was doing small events. Thank God, you know, I kind of feel blessed in a way. I wasn't a huge wedding florist. So I have friends who are wedding florists. I mean, I do weddings, you know, and actually recently more and more weddings, because the weddings are small. I've got one, you know, in a couple of weeks. I had one last week. Because they're small people. And for those florists, that was very difficult, because really it was like huge business to nothing. And some of them I saw were also doing like Friday flowers, and one of them was speaking to me about it. You know, I see people at the flower place and we have chats and stuff, how to really reinvent yourself a bit. So the events, even though they're small, I do feel the impact financially from it, because I'm not having 20 tables. I'm now like, I've got a bar mitzvah next weekend, you know, where it's two designs. It's just as if you've ordered something for Shabbat table. So it's not really an event. It's for them, for the client, it's an event, but it's not really. It's just for me, 2 arrangements. So that's hard. The other thing is that I was doing a lot, and I actually didn't mention before, but I think your viewers will probably be interested to know as well. I did a lot of workshops, and sometimes there were workshops at bat mitzvahs, and sometimes it was like charity workshops, which is something that I really enjoyed, and I did a lot. You know, I like to kind of give back to the community, victims of terror, and sort of there's another organization actually that Dr. Gaon, who's a local doctor, his wife was involved in, and she's helped take flowers this year during Corona because I couldn't go into the hospital. She took flowers for me that I'd prepared for all the children in the ward there, just to have something this year for Rosh Hashanah. You know, I'm not doing those things, so that's impacted it, which is hard because I really enjoy that. But then I also have home flowers, you know, the bouquets and that sort of thing. So because I had that element, I also feel that, like, thank God I don't have a shop, because that, I think they're the people who have shops and have got rent,
who have the overhead.
Yesterday, the overhead. I mean, yesterday I saw something on Facebook of a jeweler in Jerusalem, and I know, I mean, I don't know her personally. I know that shop. I used to buy things occasionally, you know, or walk past there. I worked close by, and you know, it's just wrecked her whole life, her whole income, and the rent is so high. So thank God, you know, like I really feel like that. Everything was online anyway. It's all like that. And you know, that way, I do feel very blessed and lucky. And you know, Corona's happened. We're living with it. Please God, it'll be over soon. But who knows what will happen? But for me, you know, I'd love events just to come back. That's what I want. I want that because I love the creativity of the events. And in some ways, events are more stressful because you know, there's a time. The time ticks with an event. You know, got a few hours. It's got to be done. But on the other hand, it's somehow easier. It's like one client, one design base. You know, when I'm doing designs for Rosh Hashanah, I've got like, you know, 80, 90, 100 people. Last Yontif I did 150 orders. So it's 150 individual things and thinking about it and different vases and different things. Whereas, you know, for a bar mitzvah, it's like one person, one thing, much easier. But, you know, I'm just going with the flow. This is what we've got. We've got to be positive and thankful for what we have. And, you know, that's where we're at.
Wow, amazing. I want to tell you, you're going to...
And then when peonies come back, we'll have to do...
Oh my gosh, peonies.
In May. Always the peonies for you.
God bless you. You find peonies for me here in Israel. It is my favorite flower.
I know, I love that.
World. I said to my husband, like years when we first met, and I said to him, I know that Hashem exists because of peonies. I think above all, it's like it's the most perfect flower in the States. It is so fragrant. They are absolutely here. They don't smell as well. The scent is not.
The pink ones do.
Yeah, but there's very little. Like I would have
not the same.
It's not the same. I would have like maybe just a bouquet of it, and the entire house would smell so delicious from it. But you know, I'm not complaining. I'm happy to get them, you know, how in whatever shape or form. And you're the woman to track down peonies. Now, what I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions around because I have to torture my peoples. So first of all, if you could go right now, we're all dreaming about the different places that we can go because no one can go anywhere. But if you can go as of, you know, after, you know, you get a couple days to pack, of course, but I'm sending you away for 2 weeks. Where am I sending you and who am I sending you with?
That's a cool question. Where would I like to go? I don't really know. That's a really good one. I think my kids, I would definitely go on holiday with my kids. I would take them somewhere really special.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to the mountains in Switzerland. It would be nice. Cool air, something like that, walking, doing that. They'd probably like to go to Disneyland, so we'd have to figure out how that would work. Or Hawaii. Hawaii would be good. Beach, you know, pineapple all day long. That would be great.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So yeah, but the truth is a holiday in Israel would also be quite good right now.
Yeah, at this point, I think that we would. I mean, at this point, if I even just said to you, go to Ra'anana for 2 weeks, you'd probably say, okay.
You know, the funny thing is, I feel very blessed. My parents live really opposite the sea in Ramat Poleg. So whenever we go there for Shabbat and I sit on the balcony and you see the sea, you don't really need to be anywhere else. So the sun's shining, you feel like you've had a holiday, which is what I'm doing this Shabbat, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I'd love to go to Eilat, and the kids and I keep talking about it, but I actually don't really fancy the corona test. And I'm not really sure about this whole situation that half of Israel are now going to Eilat. Surely that is just going to be a corona hotspot. It's not quite.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just going to be a matter of time before we have another lockdown.
I know. But anywhere with a pool. I love swimming, and Corona, the fact that Corona has closed down the pool, or pools, I should say, has literally killed me. I really swim most days. So anywhere with the pool, and that will be fun. And good food.
Warm weather. Well, very nice. Okay. Yeah. And what is your favorite thing to eat right now? What's your favorite meal?
That's another good question. The favorite meal, I actually just made one of my favorite meals. Salmon, salad, and baked potatoes. That was good supper.
Yeah. It's so healthy.
Well, I actually have type 1 diabetes. So I've had it since I was a child.
Okay.
And impacts my life very much, you know, every minute of the day. So when you actually asked about food, it's quite a good question. That was a very good supper that I had. But, you know, if I was really honest, what I'd like is Ben and Jerry's, but it's not so good. So, yeah, the salmon, it's a good job. If the dietitian's listening, she'll be very proud of me.
Very proud of you. You're like, great.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Check mark. You got to check mark.
Yeah, I ticked that box tonight. It's not always good.
Absolutely did. Okay. What do you do to stay sane?
Bike and swim.
Very nice.
And walk. But bike and swimming, I love it. Just this week I went on my bike. Anabay is like 5 minutes. The park, you know, the park by us, into the wadi, and it's just amazing. The hills, I love it. It's really great.
Nice. You know, I really want one of those like old-fashioned bikes, and
right, like the flowers that I made.
Yes. And someone so upset. Like, I don't check my Facebook enough. That's one thing I'm not so good at checking on. I'm like,
right.
I get busy with life.
I'll send you the picture.
Oh my gosh. No, I saw the picture. What I'm saying is someone posted one on sale, and I missed it. And I was so upset. I've been posting repeatedly. If anyone is selling one of those bikes, please let me know. I really want one of those old-fashioned bikes. And
if you snooze, you lose on Facebook.
I'm telling you. So if you hear,
gotta be quick. People are so quick.
I'm telling you. So if you hear of one of those, let me know. So
sure. Mine's more of a mountain bike, but I don't really mountain bike. I just like riding like the trails. It's nice.
Well, my 12-year-old son is into mountain biking, and he has a YouTube channel, and he has more subscribers and more views than I have in like the shortest amount of time. And that's
very cool.
He films himself with a GoPro camera, just mountain biking, and everyone.
That's impressive.
These videos.
That's impressive. I'm really not that cool, but I did use. It's funny because before I had my business, I used to go every Friday morning with some friends in Kaiser. We were the biking crew, the ladies, and we'd ride to Yad Ben Shemen and ride the whole forest, and it was great fun. I miss it. I mean, I can't do it anymore because Fridays are my flower day.
Yeah, work day for you.
Yeah. So now I kind of just go, you know, when I can in the beginning of the week more, but it's good. It's good.
Do you find yourself going away for Shabbat to your family, or when do you prepare Shabbos, on Tuesday? Because you're busy at the end of the week.
It's very hard to be a religious florist, Shabbat florist, I can tell you. So thank God my parents are incredibly supportive, and my mum is a very good cook. And I often just shut the door on the mess, real mess. Anyone who's ever picked up flowers from my house will see what a mess it becomes. I often just shut the door and we just go to my parents for Shabbat, and that's my time with them, and the kids see them, and it's great. But on the other hand, also, like, as my kids have got older, they also want to be in a community for Shabbat as well, and, you know, be with their friends. So sometimes it's just a case of either being super organized and cooking on Tuesday, which I'm not that organized, or relying on Maccabees. Another community, who works in drawing, who works in Maccabees, has seen me far too regularly recently.
Well, you know, Maccabees is really good food, I have to say. So, and
supporting, you know, I'm supporting a local business, so that's my justification, right?
Absolutely.
And they've got the best chopped liver in the world, so there you go.
No, because you have literally work towards the days that the average, you know, from household is preparing for Shabbat. You're actually, that's like when you work full time. That's, you know,
it's very hard. I mean, you know, it's funny, you'll laugh, but I always do like the Shabbat clothes, like the ironing on like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Like that is my time to get everything like that, so that the minute when I'm finished and cleaning up the floor, like if we're here for Shabbat and I'm cleaning up the floor and my son's like on his way to Mincha, like, Ima, where's the clothes? I'm like, they're ready, they're done, because I just can't. It's really stressful. And, you know, I always laugh before Chagim, like that's actually the worst, that with Corona, it was really difficult, because usually we go to my parents and I just shut the door and enter my parents' beautiful home and everything's clean, and I just have these visions of the greenery all over my floor, and I like deal with it after Chag. And with Corona and the lockdown, we couldn't go to my parents. So, you know, like Pesach or Rosh Hashanah, Shavuot, everything was like, I was still doing the flowers and working. And actually, you know, because there were more people in Modi'in, a lot of people weren't going away for Chag, they all want flowers. And I'm terrible at saying no. So I was just yes. And it was really, really hard. And you can't get a cleaner at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's literally sweeping the floor. And all these lovely friends of mine and clients were sending me pictures of their beautiful tables, because I always tell people, send me a picture, and everyone's home looking beautiful. And I'm standing there in the mess going, how's Chag gonna happen? But you know, we managed, you know, it somehow gets together.
Wow.
But yeah, my kids are getting used to living,
I can only imagine
in like a flower shop.
Yeah, in a flower shop. Yeah, I can only imagine the debris, because when I buy, like, you know, once in a while you'll like buy a bouquet at a supermarket, you grab something really quick. Right. And I'm not a person that takes it, opens it, and drops it in a vase. I cut it. I'm like you. I cut it, trim it, you know, I place it.
Play with it.
And from one little bouquet, there's like, so I cannot imagine like
I know, I have like bags of rubbish, like just bags of greenery. And then you've got to make sure that you get it out on the right day, otherwise we'll get a fine in the building. So thank God that's like Thursday night, in the middle of the night, I creep out with my bags of rubbish. Well, but you know, you learn. And I think, no, I was gonna say also, it's a lot easier now my children are older. Like I couldn't have done this when I was like like little kids, like, you know, Harel's 13, he's going on 20, you know, very independent. Ilana is nearly 11, you know, less independent, but still, you know, they can be left, like when on a Friday afternoon when I'm running to Buchman and back delivering, or wherever I'm delivering, I can leave them. Whereas, you know, if I had little kids, you couldn't do that, you know, so it's definitely a lot easier. And then, you know, I'll give them a bag of rubbish to take out, get them working. You know, we figure out a way to do it, but it is stressful and it's hard. And Fridays, you know, it's you know, Shabbat is early, you know, really early now.
Yeah, it definitely is. When it comes out early, I'm just like,
but sometimes the delivery
is if you can meet one person, go back in time.
I'm gonna say this.
I gotta ask everybody. This is the one that everyone gets. I'm sorry, because
the dinner party.
I'm still looking for an answer for myself. But if there's one person you can go back in time and spend a day with, who would it be? Who would you want to meet? Anyone?
They have to be definitely from the past, not anyone from the present.
Yes, from the past.
From the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, it'd be last year. So that's the past. I'll give you a discount.
No, because I was going to say in the present, I'd quite like to meet, maybe someone could make this happen. I'd love to meet the president, Reuven Rivlin. I think he's amazing. The Saba of Israel, I just love ours. But someone in the past. So this is interesting because I don't know. It's a difficult one. I was thinking about someone who would be different to maybe what everyone else would say. I would be very interested in meeting the doctor who created insulin. Right.
Nice. For you, yeah.
Yeah, which is really embarrassing now because I've like totally forgotten his name. It's really embarrassing. So Franting.
We can Google it.
He's called Sir Frederick Banting.
Okay.
I was thinking about this all day, like who would, you know, in my life, I think it would be so fascinating to meet him and thank him for saving thousands of millions of people's lives, but including mine. If I would have been born in a time before he created that, I would never be alive today. So that is something I always feel very grateful to. When it comes up on Google, you know, this was the anniversary. And I think it would be fascinating to talk to him about all the developments in childhood diabetes and, you know, what my life is like now compared to when I was diagnosed at age 7 to, you know, all the developments that are happening all around the world in diabetic research. You know, it would be fascinating. So, I mean, I have no idea what he's like as a person. Whether he would make a small dinner talk or not, but you know, that would be someone interesting.
Wow. That is actually
and different,
amazing, absolutely amazing.
A little bit different, and Jewish-wise, maybe the Rebbe. I would have quite liked to have had a conversation with Luby Rebbe. So, woman.
Wait, I lost you.
And then it's.
Did you say Did you say you are Lubavitch or you're not Lubavitch? That's where we lost you.
No, I'm not Lubavitch.
Okay,
I'm not Lubavitch.
And then continue forward.
But I think he would be someone fascinating. If we're going to continue, because, you know, meeting one person is quite boring. Golda Meir would have been an amazing woman to have met.
No,
could tell me a few things.
You were perfect. You were great. I think, like, you know, because we could, like, most people have trouble coming up with one person. You're like on your third person already, lady.
Well, I think if you're going to have a dinner party, it would be quite boring.
That's true. You're having more than one people. I thought it was a home run with the insulin inventor, because, like, it was like, that makes perfect. Absolutely. And, you know, you never
interject with other people.
And you never think of it like, you know what? You made me think of it. Like, you don't think of it on a day-to-day basis. Most people who don't have a family member or who aren't dealing with the disease themselves. But you're right. Prior to that, people died. Like, you know,
I mean, like, really, they wouldn't live a year after diagnosis. So, yeah.
That's insane. That's
not even a few months. So, well, I'm very grateful.
Wow.
On a daily basis, grateful.
It's like blowing my mind to think about that like that. Absolutely. Wow. What is your favorite book that you are, I don't know, something that you find yourself rereading, or, you know, just something that has stuck with you in your mind that was a good book that you enjoy?
So you're going to be shocked. You're going to be a bit shocked, and I sound like a bit of a pleb. I'm not the biggest reader. I shouldn't really say this because, people will be shocked. It's a bit of a joke in my family. I read a lot of magazines.
You enjoy reading.
I love Hello Magazine. No, the truth is, there are some books. There
are some books. What?
An amazing floristry book that I read. That a book about flowers. That really I had an impact on the way I developed my workshops. It's called The Secret Language of Flowers, and I love that story. It very much resonated with me because it reminded me, certain parts of the book really reminded me of when I worked in the shop in Jerusalem that I loved so much. So that's a lovely story. And I would say, just to put a plug to someone local, there's a lady locally called Sarah, who you're probably maybe familiar with, who's just written an online book as a gift to everybody about stories from her. Yeah, right. I wasn't sure if I could pronounce her surname properly.
She's being interviewed tomorrow night. I'm interviewing her.
Right. Because I was going to say she would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine. I know her, Sarah.
Actually, I just downloaded this, and I have to say, I look forward to reading her, her tales from Israel. I think it's fascinating. I've loved reading. I do a lot of reading online, I've loved reading the things she's posted from the museum. So I won't ruin it for the next podcast, but
that's all right. No, it's no ruin at all. No, so I'm friends with her also. And as she's been posting these little stories throughout the years, she's been there, every story was she retold the story so beautifully. It was just, you'd click on it and it went on and on. And normally when you see something like that, you're like, okay. But it wasn't.
No, but these are fascinating.
Absolutely.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, and they're true.
Yeah, I have to say, I was very interested to read that.
And she's an amazing storyteller. So I actually am so looking forward to interviewing her, and I'm so looking forward to reading her book when it's actually, comes out. I like having a book. This is why I can't read on Kindle. I love reading articles and reading on the internet. I'll read an article, but a book, I love to hold it. I love to feel it. So I'm very.
So for me, I was never like that. My cousin was such a bookworm, and for me, I would rather be out playing tennis, or that's what I used to do as a kid, or go on my bike or whatever. And I'm still like that. If I have, which I have very little spare time between carpools and work. But if I have half an hour, I'd rather get out and thing, and I'm just not to read, which is not good for my kids' English. I get told by the English teachers, not so good.
Well, we
won't go there.
Maybe they'll discover it. Well, I have 4 kids. 2 they are very sporty, love to go out, the mountain biker. I have one that's a basketball player. They're, again, same thing. They are not big readers. They will read something online. They're not into reading. My husband picks up a book and it usually puts him to sleep. He will pick up a book to fall asleep. That's he'll start reading because he knows in 5 minutes he's and he's out, And then I have my other 2 that are huge readers, and I have one child that basically can bribe her with books if I needed to, or an incentive or a motivation for something, or it's the easiest birthday or holiday gift to give her.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I'm a big reader myself, so I totally get that. Not everyone is, and but anyway. I want to just tell you that this has been absolutely fantastic. I love speaking with you. I love your flowers. I love you as a person. You're amazing. And your path, via, MI6 Israel style to becoming a florist.
Not quite MI6, but
not quite.
Yeah.
but forever, just because you're English, you know, James Bond, I've got to say,
absolutely,
it's going to be that Miss MoneyPenny, you know, it's just, and I love that is one of the best things about Israel, that, you know, that you can end up doing that, you know, without any training or whatever. But you know, but I'm sure that obviously we're joking about it, but clearly, you know, you're a very personable person. You know, your school degree that you studied, and you have the organization skills and the people skills, which was obviously something that they needed in their team. And, you know, you're a very intelligent woman. So all joking aside, you know, it's just fun for me to like rag on you, but, you know, you clearly are a very, very qualified person.
It's been a joke with many friends, I can tell you.
No, it's a great story. It is definitely a great story. You will sit down when you have your conversation with the insulin guy. You'll share that story, and he'll share how he came up with insulin.
Absolutely. But you know, it's really been so lovely talking to you and being part of this. And you know, what's amazing is, again, I didn't realize we were doing this until you sent it to me. So I really wish you like so much luck in this, and that it really, like, lots of people, you know, click on. Amazing how much, how many interesting people there are in the community, and how much talent there is. It's like many people that you kind of know, like, you know, there's lots of people, you know, and smile and say hello to, but you don't necessarily know like all of these like stories, the past. And it's been so interesting, like listening to you know, everyone's journeys and everyone's, you know, whether there's been ladies who've written books or they're nurses or, you know, whatever that is, you know, it's been a really interesting project that you're doing here.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone needs to interview you though. We need to know more about your theatre background.
Well, one day. A reversal. I'll have someone come on and interview me. I will do that. Yeah. I will do that. But again, it's like, you know, like it's
I want to know.
So so I'll keep asking the question just to get everyone's response. But I will have some later on down the line. I'll get a friend to interview me, and they'll come up with their questions, and I will answer it. But until then, I just want to interviewing you, fabulous women that I know around the world, in the community and around the world. And just, you know, everyone has wonderful stories, and I love hearing everybody's stories and getting some insight into you, because, you know, it enriches our daily experience, because we don't get to spend as much one-on-one time just, you know, getting down to the nitty-gritty of everyone's path and journey. And I think that, you know, friends and people will enjoy getting to know you a little bit better, and you're just amazing. Good. I'm so happy. It fills me. It gave me the biggest smile, and I first of all, I loved smiling just talking to you, and just gave me the biggest thrill and smile to know that you're enjoying it, because that's like what I want it to be. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, it was great.
So, I thank you very, very much, and I will post all of Sophie's information. You'll see it on the screen, and you can reach out to her if you need her for any of her fantastic flowers.
Amazing.
Have a great night. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you. Good night.
Bye.